Hello everybody, we're live again. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Dean and Aisha presenting to you from our kitchen again.
Yes.
We actually have a very interesting topic to discuss today. We're going to talk about supplements. It's one of the most common questions that we're asked on a regular basis in the clinic.
Every day, every patient.
Every day. As a matter of fact, you know, some of our patients, when they come in and we see them walking in the hallway, and they come with plastic bags full of bottles and bottles of supplements. And I mean, we spend a good half an hour just sorting out through the medication. So it's a very common question that we get asked on. We're really excited. And it's also the last Friday, the last talk before our book comes out next week.
Yes.
So Tuesday our book comes out, and here it is. I'm sorry you're kind of seeing the mirror image because the camera is facing us, but our book is coming out on the 12th of September, Tuesday. All of the profits go towards the communities.
Yeah. Please buy it, pre-order it now. We want to start, although we're already at pre-order stage, #1 among in the sector.
Yes.
We would love to start
#1 in medical diseases. On Amazon.
And we would like to start with the biggest opening any book has ever come out with. And like I said, all of the profits go to the communities. We're very excited about it. In the United States on September 12th, which is Tuesday. Internationally through Simon & Schuster will be coming out in October.
Absolutely.
So we're excited that you join us in our journey. This is not about the book. It's not about us. It's about informing, educating people with the right information, and also kind of empowering you so that the next little shiny thing, or the next group that says this special diet or this special nutrient, or I have followers, thousands of followers that live by this, or I personally had 15 diseases, and we respect all of that. But in science, there is no authority, there is no cult of masses. It's the next set of data that's been validated, that's been proven, and even there you say, to the best of our knowledge now. That's our catchphrase.
Absolutely.
And we're okay with that. And it has to be cumulative data, and you say levels of data information. Level 1 is a large clinical trial with both cases and controls. Level 2 and level 3, that's the kind of information that needs to be promulgated and spread out. And today we wanted to talk about one of the most important topics, because supplements are the biggest market out there, biggest business out there, and it is not without consequence.
Absolutely. So we're going to start the topic by essentially explaining, what supplements mean, and it actually has different meanings for different people. So supplements are essentially vitamins, minerals, sometimes herbal supplements, and a combination of macronutrients that people take for maintaining good health, or sometimes even improving their health.
Even amino acids and fatty acids and botanicals, all these go under one category of supplements.
Agreed. And so, this, right now, you were giving me a very interesting statistics about supplements. So right now, how many supplements are there out in the market?
75,000 supplements.
Oh,
so when the person says, what do you have to lose? I say, well, by that logic, you should try 75,000 of them. And so it's not just the latest thing that somebody's proposing, or they have the budget to do the bigger commercial or the bigger star that pushes it. And now I have to tell you, you're going to get a lot of things that you might not like to hear, or a lot of people that believe in this strongly. But we're going to give you just the facts. Data according to papers, according to large consensus, proven going forward. But there are ones that actually do work, and we'll talk to you about that at the end. So stick with us.
Yes, stay till the end with us, because we're going to describe them.
Yes.
So it's essentially a big market, about $37 billion industry,
yeah. And growing fast.
And it's growing very fast. And it all started back in the 1990s, 1994 to be specific, with a law that was placed called the Dietary Supplement Health Education Act. And what that act did was to essentially allow the producers to say that certain vitamins and minerals were actually associated with better health. Or, you know, for example, they would put claims on the bottles or on the product saying that if you take this particular product, it will help your immunity, which would ultimately fight cancer.
They couldn't make the direct connection that this supplement helps with cancer, but they could actually make the indirect connection, but that's the same thing. So to the audience, to the observers, it would come across as if, oh, if you take this supplement, it will actually help with cancer. But what they're actually saying is that this supplement might be helping with immunity, and of course, if you help immunity, that's going to help with cancer. Mm-hmm. That link does not exist. That assumption cannot be made. Yet the door was open in 1994, and it went from a $4 billion industry to $37 billion industry, and it's exponentially growing.
Exactly. So what we have done for the purpose of this talk was to look back at the data, particularly for brain health, and kind of create a summarized talk about, you know, what's the data as far as supplements are concerned for brain health. So,
but before we get to the data, a couple of other things. So we have the FDA that looks over drugs.
Yes.
And with great scrutiny. As much as we complain about the fact that there is too much scrutiny in the United States, and drugs don't get fast-paced and don't go into the market quickly, especially compared to Europe, it is protective. It is important that that level of scrutiny exists, well, plus or minus. Otherwise, a lot of bad drugs would have caused tremendous harm, thousands and millions of people suffering from it. So that's the FDA, huge budget overseeing the pharmaceutical side of things, and prescription, as well as food. When it comes to supplement, the department that oversees it is a very small department with very limited power. Mm-hmm. In fact, their budget is what, $4 million?
Yes.
And with the
26 people
to look over 75,000 supplements. And their only job is to say that, oh, these people are claiming X, Y, and Z, and they're not claiming, you know, that they're curing. That's basically it. They don't go into the supplements and test them. They don't evaluate even their quality. So they're just evaluating them for verbiage, whether they're actually saying what they're supposed to be saying.
Absolutely. So going back to the data, largely, if you look at large epidemiological studies, there really isn't any particular vitamin that can actually cure a disease. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of vitamins that actually cause harm, because, you know, the vitamins and minerals are very unnatural substances, and when you take them in large doses and in large quantities, especially if your body doesn't really need it, it actually causes harm. And so, you know, the consensus is, if you don't have any particular deficiency of minerals and vitamins, it's basically useless to take a multivitamin.
Except in certain circumstances, which we'll talk about.
And yeah, the circumstances are very individualized, they're very precise, and it actually has to be done in a clinical setting where your doctor, primary care physician, is able to look at the levels of the vitamins and the minerals and adjust it accordingly.
Correct. In fact, we kind of assume, because they're vitamins, this holistic name, that they're all beneficial.
It's associated with vitality.
Vitality and also nutrients and all. They're not all benign. And there are chemical substances that will have effect on your body, on your system, and your neurotransmitter systems.
Agreed.
And so they're not benign. And many of them, because they're not regulated, they have serotonergic and dopaminergic consequences in the brain and in the body as well. You know, bleeding risk. Many of them have bleeding risk.
Absolutely. So a lot of the herbal products are actually combined with medication.
Correct.
There are some pharmaceuticals in it that can cause a lot of harm, and they've even found you know, heavy metals and other things. So it's very, very important to understand the consequences of taking these so-called benign products.
And by the way, as much as they've done a hands-off approach to the supplements, they knew enough that to tell the supplement companies that they cannot make claims of cure or disease alteration. And none of them should, and none of them can. Like I said, they do indirect language to kind of allude to something. Yeah. but in reality, none of them actually. There has never been a supplement that has cured anything. I know that when we say this, we're going to get a bunch of writings on that below that I was cured of this and somebody else. No, there have never been studies that actually have shown this.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
All right.
So we had a technical difficulty there for a second. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reality is, so when do we use supplements and which supplements?
Right. So as far as specific supplements go,
Yeah.
let's talk about multivitamins. Like I said, they've looked at energy level or, specific disease prevention and multivitamin intake, especially in, middle-aged people who are normal and they don't have any particular disease. It really didn't end up benefiting them at all. Now, there are particular ones that are very useful for people who have low levels of it. Like for example, in our patient population, vitamin B12 level.
Yeah.
They come in with cognitive impairment, or they come in with symptomatology of inflammation. They have high inflammation. There is a byproduct, homocysteine. If homocysteine is high and vitamin B12 level is low, it's essential to actually replace that vitamin B12
And vitamin
levels.
B12 is critical. I mean, it's a DNA repair mechanism, methylation, some significant pathways in the body that benefit from B12. And whenever there's B12 deficiency, neuropathy has been associated with it, cognitive decline and dementia has been associated with it. So yes, if there is a deficiency, that's one of the things that we actually check anytime somebody comes with any kind of deficiency, be it vascular or cognitive or brain-wise, we check B12 levels. And in our case, even if it's normal by hospital standards, but on the lower end of normal and the person is older or they have certain special diets like more vegetable-based, then we say supplement, absolutely. And we've seen the benefit in those circumstances.
Exactly. Like you said, for people who have specific dietary patterns, like vegetarians, they should take vitamin B12
Especially
levels.
vegans, yes.
Especially vegans or plant-based. In any case, and then one of the other things that has been studied is DHA, or omega-3 fatty acids. Now, the data on omega-3 fatty acids is, started coming to us from animal models where they looked at the levels of DHA in blood cells, and they found that if DHA was above a particular level, the chances of cognitive impairment was lower.
Correct.
But we don't have large clinical trials that actually shows that DHA can prevent, particular diseases.
Correct.
But there are situations, there are some cases where we actually prescribe DHA for them.
Correct. The studies that were done in dementia, patients who had Alzheimer's and were put on DHA, it was not positive. It was a negative study. But in people who are aging and have been placed on DHA and B12 together, there's some evidence that the two together seem to have some benefit. Again, very early, very preliminary data that needs to be further expanded. Do you see how? And so that actually was very telling, because that speaks to what we always talk about, which is vitamins in themselves are not as natural, although I don't like using the word natural.
Well, they call them natural. I mean, haven't you seen those containers that have the word natural?
And then leaves
greens
and plants.
and leaves and trees coming
Correct.
out of it, basically giving the perception that it comes from nature, so, anything that is natural is good for you. Well, poison ivy is natural and that's not good for you.
Correct, correct.
So, just taking something in abnormal levels is just not right, and nothing can replace a good diet.
Or outside of their natural state. There have been studies with vitamin E and vitamin A that when they were taken in pill form, the study with lung cancer, when they looked at populations with higher vitamin A levels, they saw that those who had higher vitamin A levels had lower cancer risk,
Absolutely.
specifically lung cancer. Same thing with vitamin E and prostate cancer.
Yeah.
But so they said, wow, okay, so since these people eat foods that have a higher vitamin A, so what if we supplement it? Well, guess what? The reverse was seen. That actually supplementation caused a higher proclivity or tendency for cancers, for those kind of particular cancers. So it's not the pill in its separate state, but in a food state, in a natural food, whole food state that's most beneficial. because it speaks to synergy. We love the concept of synergy.
Absolutely.
There's synergy here, and there's synergy with us and kids. There's synergy in your body. There's synergy with nature.
Yeah.
But synergy means when these chemicals work with other chemicals together, not one, not two, thousands of chemicals that have evolved together in your body. It's in that context that they are most beneficial, not taking it separately in excess doses, which can sometimes be toxic. For example, a lot of vitamins that we tell our patients over and over, you can't take it a lot.
Vitamin E, A.
Yeah, the acronym is ADDIC.
That's right, A-D-E-K. You got to really be careful to know whether you really need to take those medications because they can be harmful.
Correct. So that's why it's critical. We push the idea of get your vitamins. If you're not sick, if you're not deficient of vitamins, if you're not deficient of nutrients, please take your vitamins in the food form.
Yeah.
Look at how many. So we've been talking about the food form, a plant-based, whole plant-based diet, and we're not. It's not a doctrine for us. It's not like as if we're following it. We're willing to adapt with data. So far, the data shows that, and even we speak about the fact that if you're vegan, that actually that population, a large number of them, have to supplement with B12. So although there's benefit, there's some harm, so that you have to actually then supplement that condition. Yeah. And if you're going to get your supplements in the food form, it's so much more beneficial to your body, which means a more complex, more colorful plate.
You get so many minerals in one morsel, and you know the fiber that comes with fruits and vegetables, it actually regulates the absorption of those minerals and vitamins. So just eating whole foods has so many benefits.
Correct.
And like you know, at the conclusion of every paper, there is this paragraph at the end. You know, you read all the data, and it basically says that nothing can replace a whole food. So if you eat a healthy diet, that's where you're going to get all of your vitamins, minerals, proteins, carbohydrates, and whatnot.
Yeah. At this point, I know that we don't have enough data to speak to particular vitamins on a regular basis for everybody. So we're actually somewhat against that. Mm-hmm. If you think that you have a deficiency state, follow with your doctor always, and make sure that the levels are checked and followed over time, and supplemented appropriately. There are conditions, again we repeat, vitamin D deficiency. How often have I seen that now? Even in California, sunny California.
So more.
Exactly.
It's so prevalent.
And then vitamin D deficiency has been associated with dementia, with MS, with other things preliminarily. So it's really important in those situations to supplement B12, omegas, but it's in the context of being studied.
And I want to also address herbal products, because that's one of the most common questions that we get. You know, I'm taking this herbal product, and herbs are natural, they're plants, so are they good for us? And you know, as far as the data and the large clinical trials show, basically, you know, none of the herbal products have been beneficial. And we have things like ginkgo biloba for memory and dementia. You know, they had 2 clinical trials and they failed. They didn't show any benefit. Echinacea for cold and flu, not useful at all. Glucosamine and chondroitin for joint pain and joint health, nothing. Black cohosh, I know a lot of women used to take black cohosh for hot flashes. Clinical trials done, and they didn't show any benefit. Saw palmetto for prostate and urinary tract issues, nothing. As a matter of fact, you know, some of them have actually been really, really dangerous. Some of my patients take St. John's wort.
Yes.
I don't know if you have experience with that.
Correct.
And you know, the drug-to-drug interaction is so common, and it's so dangerous. So.
Yeah, it's really important that we come back to the point that, again, some people are going to say, no, my experience is this, and then other people I've known, they actually have positive effects. Anecdotes in science and personal experiences, and even a large number of people believing that the supplement works or not, does not make grounds for this information to be spread to everybody.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, those 75,000 supplements that I just spoke about earlier, all of them had people speaking to them. There are groups speaking to them. So does that mean that we have to take all 75,000? And if people think that, no, their supplement is special and different and they have this personal experience, I can assure you, if not for all of those 75,000, but for tens of thousands of those, there will be people that will actually speak as vehemently, as passionately, as you. So the reason we're speaking to this, which is an uncomfortable topic because people want to get some supplement that can help them, is because it is not without consequence. It has harmful effects. We want to kind of change the mindset. Supplements, all of them are not bad, but they are good under certain circumstances where there's a deficiency and you're supplementing it, and also in certain situations like maybe prenatal during pregnancy,
absolutely,
like folate and others.
Yes, folic acid during pregnancy.
Correct. And in certain regions, like in the Scandinavian countries, now vitamin D because of a lack of sunlight. Those circumstances warrant use of certain vitamins.
Absolutely.
But outside of that, nothing's been proven. Nothing extensively to the point where we or other doctors would feel comfortable giving it to a large number of population. That's where we are at this point. When it comes to the brain, though, we still say there are a couple of things that we support, but we always say it's level 3 science, which means that it's not a powerful, prospective, double-blinded, which has been proven significantly. But under circumstances where the level of B12 is on the lower end, even not abnormal, taking B12 and omega-3s has been shown in some preliminary data to be effective and helpful, and that needs to be further evaluated, and always say that. And then turmeric. You want to speak to turmeric?
Yeah, so actually that was one of the questions from one of our viewers about turmeric. Lately, turmeric, specifically curcumin. Actually, curcumin is an active compound of turmeric. You guys probably know what turmeric is. It's a yellow spice used in Indian and Mediterranean dishes. And so curcumin has been isolated from turmeric, and it has been studied as far as its health benefits for inflammation, arthritis, and Alzheimer's disease is concerned. Curcumin specifically actually can cross the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, in small amounts, so not all of it.
No, not all of it. It can cross that tight junction between the blood vessels and the brain, and it goes and sits on top of the amyloid protein.
Which is the bad protein.
Which is the bad protein that has been associated with Alzheimer's disease, not causes.
Correct, associated, yes, exactly.
So this, and it also has a very, very strong anti-inflammatory effect. And so this has been studied in, like a bunch of people I know take curcumin supplements for brain health and for arthritis.
But we're not doing anecdote or a personal experience thing. We're saying that there is some preliminary data that it might be beneficial, but more importantly in the food form.
Right, so the interesting thing is curcumin specifically itself has been studied in very small populations and mostly in animals. But when they've done epidemiological studies for a long period of time, they found that people who ate curry or curcumin or turmeric in their food actually had better health.
Correct.
And turmeric has 4,000 different compounds of that are anti-inflammatory. So which is good and which is bad. So we propose eating the more whole form of curcumin, which is turmeric. Just add a couple of teaspoons of turmeric.
Which has been proven throughout thousands of years to be not harmful.
Absolutely.
And there's some, again, this is preliminary data that might be beneficial.
Yeah.
That's where we are as far as the brain is concerned.
Right.
Nothing else has been so far shown to be of great benefit, despite our search for it.
Right.
We've gotten a couple of other questions as far as amino acids, and actually several questions about protein and amino acids.
I don't mean to ignore you guys. I'm just looking at your questions right here in my laptop. So let's kind of jump and answer some of these questions.
Sure.
So the first question by Dr. Emil. Hi, Dr. Emil. Thank you for joining us. Is I'm worried about the pesticides and other toxins our foods are laced and contaminated with. We may eat right and still be harmed by what is behind the scenes of what is right.
Yes. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I mean, they say that since the 1930s or 40s, more than 40,000 chemicals have been added into our agriculture and waters. That's why when people check for just mercury and lead in fish, it's shocking that other thousands of chemicals are not checked. That's a reality. We're living with this. But we don't want to, paralysis can be harmful. So we can't throw the baby with the bathwater.
Exactly.
So,
I like that.
Yeah, so the reality is, what we know is these things are harmful. And we also know that our food to some extent is contaminated. We can't do anything about this. Now we can't say, oh, since I can't do anything about this and this can kill me, therefore I'm going to give up on everything else. Otherwise we should close up all the clinics, hospitals, public health places. So we go with what we know. Now the concept of organic comes in here. We see lots of labels of organic. What that actually basically speaks to is clean food, clean from toxins, from chemicals and things of that nature. We're not there yet. A lot of people who claim organic actually, first of all, misconstrue the title of organic. They think just because they grew it in a backyard and it's organic. No, if you grow it in LA, you're going to get as much chemicals from the air as anywhere else. And the second thing they make a mistake with is the fact that whether it was truly tested for all the chemicals or the main chemicals,
right.
and almost never have they been tested fully. In one study only, when they looked at brain health, organic and true organic, meaning a lab that actually took the time to analyze all that, yes, there was a difference. But in reality, everywhere else, the concept of organic is not applied properly. We don't have to, if the center in the NIH, which actually looks at over 75,000 supplements, has a budget of $4 million, forget about organic. It's just a word that's being used to sell products.
Exactly.
We would love to be at a point where we can actually test the true organic nature of things as defined by foods that are grown in a way where they're devoid or all chemicals are absent or external chemicals are absent. And we think that would be incredibly beneficial.
Absolutely.
And we think that might be where the harm for a lot of the diseases come from, or at least part of it, not all. But we're not there, and we don't want to throw the baby with the bathwater. So
yes.
For now, we'll hold off on the foods, and at least let's control the things that we can.
Okay, great.
Thank
you for your question.
Sorry.
Really appreciate it. No, that was great. There is one question about B12. I think we talked about B12 already. The other question was about proteins. One of our friends actually asked us about proteins and amino acid supplementation for general health.
Yeah. So amino acids are the constituent or parts that make proteins. And that's why they give amino acids, because then the body doesn't have to break it down, so it can reassemble it easier. No evidence that amino acids are needed for anybody except those who are deficient again. Even in elderly, yes, as we get older, and I say we, one of us, again, not her, but me, as we get older, past the age of 40, I'm barely past the age 40, then we start losing some protein every year, some protein from our muscles, and so, and then they use that as grounds for supplementation. That's not grounds for supplementation, because there's never been evidence that by supplementing you're helping grow muscles, one, and there's never been a look at how much harm it can do to the kidneys and other systems. You can easily supplement your protein through natural ways, hopefully a plant-based way, and make sure that you don't get the toxins, you don't get the toxic effect of excessive amino acids where the kidney has to filter it out. All those things can be avoided. Even if you're a bodybuilder, just go into the internet and see how many humongous bodybuilders
who eat a plant-based diet.
Yeah. So it's one of the most overstated, exaggerated, and fought after terrains of is amino acids and protein. It's overstated. I really think that, especially when it comes to that, there's plenty of room to build muscle through natural plant-based foods.
Absolutely, and we get a lot of patients coming in from consultants, from health consultants,
yes.
and people who are physical trainers, and they're on a bunch of different supplements and protein shakes
and containers of protein, amino acids,
and there are particular times where they have to take it before and after exercise. I mean, obviously it's understandable that you want to replace some of the calories that are lost during exercise and replenish the body, but going to the extremes unnecessarily have actually resulted in serious health problems, kidney failures to some of them as well. And not to scare you or anything else, but I think it's
scared me.
Did I scare you? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare anybody, but it's important for us to understand that that eating a whole food actually has the benefit of making sure that your body understands and accepts and absorbs the nutrients.
Correct.
Instead of like pushing in, you know, the abnormal, huge amounts of proteins or even carbohydrates for that matter.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was important. Yes. We have one question from Julia who says, "What about probiotics?" Thank you so much for that question, Julia. So the whole concept of probiotics and this market of probiotics is blowing out of proportion, and you can get probiotics in the form of little yogurt drinks or pills, or I can't even keep up with it nowadays. There was a recent study recently that originated from Iran, and they studied people who drink yogurt drink. They have the sour drink made out of yogurt that was, of course, you know, high in probiotics compared to those who didn't. And they essentially reported that people who drank the probiotic drink, the beverage, actually had lower progression of cognitive impairment. So basically, their memory scores were better than those who didn't drink the probiotics.
Now we have to give the...
Right, but when you look into the data,
Yeah.
the kind of test that they did to, you know, compare the memory in these two groups was, you know, very superficial. It didn't really go into the depths of looking at different domains of cognition. And so that was the only one that kind of, I remember talking about this Dr. Oz, Dr. Sanjay
Name
Gupta
dropping,
also.
name
I'm
dropping.
Not name dropping.
No, that's fine. It's okay.
No, but Dr. Sanjay Gupta
I
was
dropped
the one who
Aisha's
actually,
name all over the place.
you know, I was talking to Dr. Oz, and, you know, and the concept of, you know, taking away focus from a whole food plant-based diet into this one pill, one food, one vitamin is not new. It has been happening all over. But, you know, eating a whole food plant-based diet, if you eat cabbage and cauliflower and broccoli and lots of beans, that in itself completely changes your gut health. The fiber that changes your gut health, you actually start growing a completely different population of bacteria that are supremely healthful. That kind of, you know, they create enzymes and chemicals that go into your bloodstream and affect your brain, affect your heart, affect your blood vessels, all of your body. So I highly recommend eating a bowl of salad than investing in those probiotics.
Bacteria pills.
Bacteria
It just
pills.
doesn't sound right, does it? Bacteria pills.
Kind of sounds gross right now.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway, do you want to say anything about
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
And then the other question that we had was essentially about multivitamins for, we ran out over time, but this is such an interesting topic and everybody's there. Was, you know, if you don't have any health problems, do you take a multivitamin?
No.
No.
No. We don't. Because we're vegan though, or vegetarian, or plant-based, actually we're not completely, plant-based, we do take a vitamin B12.
We do, because it's important. If you don't, you know, if you're essentially eating a plant-based diet, you need the vitamin B12.
Correct.
So we take it and we give it to our children, but we don't overdo it. We don't take like thousands and thousands of micrograms of vitamin B12. It's important to understand how much your body actually needs based on your levels.
Correct.
How much does a child need versus an adult? So all of that has to come into consideration.
But if any time you feel tired, you feel sick, or it's a yearly exam, it wouldn't be a bad idea for a general practitioner or you know GP to test your levels to see if you have low B12, vitamin D, B6.
Yes.
Thiamine and all these other vitamins at least once every few years, just to see where you are as far as your nutritional requirements are concerned.
Right.
And that's basically it.
Yeah. So I think we should start wrapping up because we're over time, 38 minutes. Our book is coming out on Tuesday, people.
Get it today.
Get it today. You can download 10 additional recipes.
Yeah.
And you can download these fabulous videos that we've put together. So it's like a
They're fabulous because Aisha's making these amazing foods. It's wonderful.
I can't wait to share it with you guys.
But only for pre-orders.
They're kid approved, they're adult approved, they're fabulous, and they're just chock full of all of these vitamins and minerals that we just talked about.
Correct.
So if you order it today, you'll have access to that. And really, you know, this, I always say this, so some of you have heard this, this is more than a project or a book for us. This is our way of reducing the clutter and the confusion out there as far as brain health is concerned.
At the community level, at the family level.
Yes, we have the privilege of working in an amazing clinical setting where we have the opportunity to work with people who are devastated by this disease day in and day out, and it has affected our families as well. And when we know from the science world that there's so much we can do to prevent it, I think that's great news for all of us.
And it's with that in mind, because we go and talk in the communities every weekend, every other weekend we go to communities and talk. We see the devastation there. All the profits from this book goes back to the communities.
Thank you for listening to us, and we really, really enjoy talking about this topic. Again, for some of you who just asked questions, you can go to teamshareseye.com/book and order our book. From there, we're grateful to our Harper One team, our publisher, who's put everything together, and
Simon & Schuster in England.
And Simon & Schuster in England, who have been just incredibly amazing in helping us, disperse this message and this information. So stay tuned. We will talk to you soon.
Next week.
We'll come back next week, and until then,
tell us if there's a topic that you want us to talk about that's really important to you.
Absolutely. If I didn't get to some of the questions today, I'm sorry, but I will try my best to answer each and every one of you, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.